Yo, what's up everybody? It's Tuna. Hope you guys are doing well today. So in this video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the new card system in Torchlight Infinite, how you can min-max it, some farming strategies for it, as well as essentially a little breakdown as this has changed substantially since previous seasons. So essentially, the new card system is going to be very different from previous seasons because you are actually getting the effect of these cards on every map that you run, regardless of whether you've selected it or not. So a lot of people have been confused and they've been asking me, where are my cards? Why is there so few cards on, the maps here? That is because once you select the trait deck, this trait deck is active at all times. So each of these modifiers, for example, Flame Sands dropped, have a 34% chance to be multiplied by 2, and etc., all of these things, they are going to be active at all times. That means that we are actually getting a lot more power in each map comparatively to previous seasons, right? We're getting so many more rewards because of the fact that these these affixes are always going to be present there. It's not going to be able to build up to such a big explosion of rewards as it previously was. If you remember from previous seasons, we were getting, on the first few maps, we were basically getting no rewards. And then we will move this up to the higher time marks, time mark 8, for example. And then we would be able to do our last card and have like a huge explosion of rewards, and it would be like insane. But all of the cards before in the inheritance would kind of just be not good, right? You wouldn't be getting many rewards at all. So yeah, essentially now it's going to be more stable. Your income is going to be essentially good every map, so you can kind of look forward to getting a good amount of FE every time you run each map. But the variance will come in on these cards that you can see here, which is going to be essentially your chaos card decks, which are drawn randomly. So the more time marks you complete, the more of these you get, and the more powerful ones that you get as well. Some of them are pretty insane. There's going to be like pretty crazy ones, like for example, Extreme Trance is the most crazy one for sure, because it makes like non-legendary gear dropped as 10% chance to become Flame Elementium. So if you get this card and you are able to run it after a progress of 6, essentially it's going to give you a ton of loot. It's going to be insane, basically. But let me explain a little bit what this means. So you see how it says takes effect when at max stages. That means that once you have ran the 6 progress here, on the 7th one, you will get the effect of this card, so the 10% chance. But until then, the card is basically going to give you 100% drop quantity for these 6 maps. And that is going to be the same on every card that you see. So if I hover over anything else here, it's going to be like, non-legendary gear has a 15% chance to become Flame Fuels, and then 100 drop quantity 1 out of 4. The same here, it's going to be 100 drop quantity, but there are some cards that don't give you like, additional drop quantity, like 100 drop quantity and stuff. But it seems to be consistent across pretty much everything. So you are getting something just to be, you're getting something by running these cards. So like for the progress, you're still getting a ton more loot, but then once you get to the last card, once you get to the 5 out of the 5th card, it's going to be the reward that you see at the top. So yeah, you're going to want to basically be allocating your trait deck, and then from there you essentially select the card that you think is going to give you the most rewards and is also most synergistic with your trait deck, and then you run that, you get more loot, and then at the end of it, boom, all of this crazy stuff happens. So the rule of thumb is that, of course, the golden cards are stronger than the purples, and the purples are stronger than the blues, etc., etc. However, some of them synergize with your trait deck, and some of them don't. So I personally wouldn't be selecting things like God of War, for example, because I am not spec'd into it. So I would rather have things that give me quantity over, something like God of War, because yeah, quantity, essentially, if you look at my trait deck, I will be getting a ton more fuels because I've allocated the fuel cards, and I will get a ton more Netherrealm Resonance. And because I have a lot of rares and these cards here that give me additional desire incantations, some monsters and stuff like that I've spec'd into for the cube, these monsters are going to drop a ton more loot, essentially multiplicative with the card that I draw from the chaos deck. So this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, but essentially what you should focus when you're choosing your trait deck is you want to have more monsters in your map, so always select Zeal, in my opinion. Then you want to have Generous, Tolerant, and as well as Cautious. This is going to give you a ton of Flame Fuels, and you think to yourself, like Flame Fuels and Flame Sands, like they're not much, right? They're not much currency. But if you get 999 of these, you can sell them for like 27 FE, and I will basically be selling thousands and thousands of this every day. So I will get like, you know, a couple hundred FE just from picking these up, boosted by the fact that I have been using longing. That's because it's going to increase the drop rarity of items, right? And because these items have a chance to be, you know, either magic or rare, and you want those rare items to drop because those rare items have a 12% chance to be turned into flame sands, and those flame sands will then have a 34% chance to be multiplied by 2. Essentially, the more rare items that you drop, which is multiplied by, of course, your quantity on your maps, those will have an increased chance to be of higher rarity, and those higher rarities will be turned into flame sands that will be multiplied by 2. And you can see that things start to get a little bit like multiplicative with each other. But yeah, by the end of a map, you walk out with a few hundred flame sands, and you know, it'll be pretty nice. And because I'm using generous as well, I want to definitely have more rare monsters in my maps. And because the rare monsters will drop additional flame sands as well. And so yeah, these are just crazy together. I say that in every trait deck, you should almost have longing, zeal, generous, tolerant, as well as cautious. The next card I want to talk about is the lively card, because I think lively is very, very good for your own you know, quality of life and self-sustain. I will use Netherrealm Resonance on every single map that I run maxed out. You know, I will want to have 75 or 100 quantity respective, whether I'm on T7 or T8. And I want to make sure that that is as high as possible, because that is going to be multiplicative with basically everything else as well. So if you do have, you know, a quant card on your trait deck, and then you drop, you get additional rewards that are multiplied by 2, and then you can actually get more quantity, and that is going to multiply all of those rewards by a specific percentage. And those percentages can be quite high, so it won't be like crazy to see like a monster dropping, you know, 5 of these instead of just 1, just because you have so much quantity on your map, you know, from the trait deck, from the cards additionally that you can see here, like additional quantity, as well as the chaos card. It's going to give you additional quantity, and if you do have a quantity card on top of that, then it's going to give you maybe like an extra 200 on the last set. That is really going to be like crazy when you want to juice it, right? Yeah, and then the next cards that you want to get are basically going to be depending on the mechanic that you enjoy. It's very important to do what you enjoy in these games. I know Flame Elementium, you know, we love to see it drop, but if you do something that you enjoy, you'll want to be doing it more. And if you do that more, then you're going to be making a baseline more Flame Elementiums than someone that isn't enjoying themselves. But yeah, just do what you enjoy. And in my case, I like doing the cube. I don't particularly enjoy the cube mechanic where I'm clicking for a reward, but what I do enjoy is the amount of desire incantations, which are basically the special groups of elites that it spawns. And honestly, when you spec into the left side of the cube, these are absolutely insane. Like you will spawn so many monsters, and those monsters are pretty tough to beat. So you have to have a build that is quite strong by this point, or just drop down to T7s. But essentially, it's gonna be dropping a ton of currency that I can use in the cube shop, you know, to get additional slates and stuff like that. But I really enjoy the fact that like I'm getting a ton of monsters and group monsters and stuff like that. So I will spec into the cube, and this is going to be chance to spawn Malice. Essentially, that is chance to spawn the cube. Then additional monsters spawning in my maps, as well as additional chance to spawn the cube. And you can see that I haven't actually upgraded this, and I'm slacking on that one for sure. There are a bunch of insane cards that you can actually spec into. And, you know, for example, like Pity is one to not look over, because Pity is going to be giving you additional attempts. So that's like, you know, you're working towards killing your big boss at the end of each beacon. And that big boss can have some pretty good loot. So getting Pity in there is pretty good. And additionally, you can have this, you know, very small chance to drop 1 additional beacon. But it's really good, because actually getting more beacons means that, you know, if you're running in T8 or whatever, yeah, it says rank 5+ beacons, right? So essentially, like, you know, you have a ton of normal monsters in your maps. And if you're doing T8s, that means that it's going to be additional chances to drop more T8 maps. And T8 maps are like 5 FE each. So yeah, it's not one to like look over for sure. And the rest are just going to be like, you know, God of War, God of Might. You know, you can see I hate God of Might. I really like Goddess of Hunting, but I feels like it's kind of nerfed this league. God of Machines, I don't really enjoy. I really do like Dark Surge, so I, you know, really focused on upgrading those. Black Sail is also crazy because it gives you a ton of really expensive memories, as well as, you know, legendary memories. But I feel like this is better if you are playing a meta class, as you will be much more likely to drop memories and relics of your class specifically. But for me, the big winner is going to be the cube, because the cube, again, as I mentioned, spawns Malice incantations, and those guys are just wild. They will drop a ton of stuff. And then, yeah, there's this card here, Admiring, which is probably the best one of them all, which gives you additional drop quantity or Malice incantation. So that's those monsters that I was talking about. You will get additional quantity, which is multiplicative with all of your other quantity multipliers, you know, for Malice incantations, so that if you're spawning those additional rare monsters in your maps, they will drop 17% additional loot, which is then multiplied by the quant, of course. So you will drop a ton of desire beads, like a ton of everything really, because they can also drop like flame elementium, rare gear, and that rare gear, and you can see that it's like kind of a cascading effect, and you're just getting an insane amount of loot from each map. There's so much that goes on to this map system that you can min-max. But another thing to mention is that you have different tiers. So you have time mark 8, that goes to 1, 2, and 3, and 4 as well. And then you can go into deep space on top of that, which makes things even harder. So they've added a crazy amount of progression this season. There's endless things to do, and your character will have to be like upgraded like a ton to be able to take on these things. But you can still get crazy rewards in time mark 7, and you can go from time mark 7, 0, 1, 2. So yeah, there's a lot of variants and a lot of steps you can take to, you know, to progress through. You don't have to feel bad for not being able to do time mark 8, but it should be mentioned that time mark 8 is actually extremely rewarding, right? Not only does it reward you in the map specific drops as well, but also in the league mechanic. So if you are running time mark 8, your City of Aeterna will be much more rewarding, and you will just be getting a ton more loot from that. So keep that in mind. Progressing through the different time marks, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 4, of course, it is going to give you huge quantity bonuses. So you want to build up your character and make it as strong as possible. However, I think these are really hard, and you won't be able to sustain them, of course. So you will have to buy beacons for these, but it is worth it. You make a ton of FE running these, and yeah, it's something that you can work up towards and look forward to once your character is geared out. That about sums up the strategy and my thoughts and my thought process behind building decks and stuff like that. I hope this video has helped you guys a little bit, and I hope you guys are enjoying your time in Torchlight Infinite. I think this season is probably the best one they've done yet. I still haven't found like a crazy build. Actually, I did have a crazy build that I was playing. However, it got nerfed yesterday. They reduced the damage I was doing by 100, which apparently, you know, was a bug. I'm selling my gear and I'm trying to make a new character. One of these videos, maybe I will do on my build, you know, if I'm doing a future build that I find that I'm really excited about. But for now, just wanted to talk a little bit about the trait deck system and what you guys can do to min-max it. So thank you very much for watching, boys. I hope to see you guys again soon. Peace out, everybody.